Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of ArmTalk. I'm your host, Jody Williams. And today, anytime I have this guy on my show, and he's been on here before, I always get chills in a good way, you know? And I want to introduce you guys the freshly new Woth World Champion, Josh Grant. Josh, how you doing?
I am well, sir. Thank you very much for having me back on here, brother.
Yes. And you know what? For all the viewers out there who don't know, Josh, explain to me, what's the name of this show?
Are you referring to Hand Control Worldwide?
Aha. For all those who don't know out there, long time ago, there was a show called Hand Control Worldwide. And that show you hosted along with John Brown. And I don't think a lot of people know this, but that show, plus I think Craig Sublair's show, Arm Nation Radio, is what motivated me to create ArmTalk, you know? And those shows, I do believe, I want to say those were all on Thursday nights, if I'm correct.
Most of the time, yep.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, man, those were some nice shows. And maybe one of these days you guys can have like a hand control reunion. You know what I mean?
Dude, I bothered John about that. If not every week, every other week, we get this guy out of retirement.
Right. Because those were some awesome interviews because
they were fun.
You guys went in depth. I mean, whatever guest you had on, whether it be, Gary Goodrich or Tim Breslin or, there was one episode you had Thea Isaac and Monin Kleinsmith. You guys went in depth, and those were awesome because we talked about everything. But now, guess what? Now you're on the receiving end. Now you get to be the guest. And the first thing I want to talk about is tell everybody your experience at the Woth World Championships.
Well, I've been there 4 times. This is my 4th time. And I think we chatted about it before, Jody. And first time I went was in Bulgaria, and I got 3rd place in the Masters. And, I was really psyched about it. But it also, like anybody, like any athlete, all of us, it whets your appetite. If I can get 3rd, can I get 2nd? Can I get 1st? And I went back a couple more times, and I felt like I was stronger and all that kind of stuff. But I wasn't trained the way I should have been. And I got another 3rd place medal one of those years, but I was still, in my opinion, I was a long way away from getting gold. So I decided that I needed to reach out and get some help in the training because I was training hard and all that, like all of us do every day, that kind of thing. But I never really had like a coach. You know what I mean? I've been in the sport a long time, but that doesn't mean that you're a good coach for yourself. So I reached out to Engin Terzi, who I'd known for a long time, obviously, and he was busy for a while, but eventually he found some room for me, thankfully. And, I trained with Giannis as well, and Giannis is also an incredible coach, and he helped me build up my general power level. And then when I was working with Engin really spent a lot of time with me on technique and, just watching what I was doing because he would call in from Turkey to practice live and just watch me arm wrestle with everybody. And he was like relentless, critiquing like little tiny motions over and over again. And over the course of 6 months or so, it really made a difference, man, because my hand is really big and strong. I never felt like I was using it properly. And then combined with like his workouts and all that kind of stuff, I was stronger than ever. I was injury free. My technique was definitely at the best it's ever been. And it went really well in Romania, and I couldn't be happier about it. My team, obviously, Arsenal of Arms, we practice every week, and those guys were amazing. We're trying to help everybody on that team. That's how we practice. But, they were a pivotal part of it.
Right.
And, yeah, like you said, I won, and it feels like I checked off a significant box in my life. And, I thought I was going to be like, okay, I did that. Now let me focus on climbing or something. But all it really did was motivate me, even more to go back and try to defend it next year.
Yeah, because I always want to talk to people fresh off a world championship, because then, like you said, that was a monumental feat that you accomplished. And the next question is, okay, are you done? Can you sit there and go, hey, I've done what I need to do in this sport. I've reached the pinnacle. Now I can just, focus on something else, But then again, once you win there, once you get on top of the mountain, you get a taste of that apple. And it's like, man, I want to see if I can do it again, you know? And
yeah, man, that's how I am, you know, and I'm realistic about it, Jody. I mean, you know, I've been very open with the fact that I don't use drugs. I never will. I never have. I'm 50, you know, so it's not like I'm a spring chicken. And
right.
this is an arena. The WAF, as you know, is a tested event. Obviously, doesn't guarantee people aren't using, but at least what they are using is limited, you know, for, you know, the time it takes them to cycle on and off. And I don't know crap about that, but I'm sure somebody out there can tell you exactly what they're still able to use and not. But anyway, it's the cleanest event that I can get to. And, you know, I'm comfortable competing with that group. And it makes me feel like, you know, I'm with a bunch of people that are going to be somewhere around my, you know, talent level and less drug abusers or whatever. So I love it. And I mean, we've spoken about that before, which is why I like the nationals and world circuit. Even though the other tournaments are super fun, WAL and all that kind of stuff. But that's why I went down that path.
And I got to ask you because I know I've heard like Cody Merritt, when he won his WAF title, they kind of pulled him aside. I know SB won a world title, they pulled him aside. Did they pull you aside by chance when you won the gold?
I got tested when I got third place. They didn't test me this year. You know what? When I went there, what they basically did, I don't know if it was the same for Cody or not, but they pushed out 3 cards to the first, second, and third place finishers, and you flip them over, and one of you guys gets a red X, and that person gets tested. So I got tested in Bulgaria when I got the bronze medal, but I wasn't tested for the second bronze or for either of these golds this year.
Nice.
So I do think it's probably random, but they pulled somebody right out of the class before me, but I don't actually know if one of the second or I didn't flip a card this year, so I don't know if they just picked the class right before me or what.
Well, I guess once you win first place and you weren't selected to go take a UA, it doesn't even matter at that point. I don't give a crap who had to. Hey, I got my gold medal. I accomplished it. Now it's time to go ahead and celebrate. So
I was happy for sure. It's a big deal, you know. I hope you get over there one day. I mean, you know, you and I have talked about the IFA versus WAF thing a lot too, and as much as it is a disappointment that there's a split. I mean, I feel like if you have a goal in your mind and your goal is to, you know, if it's IFA, it's IFA. If it's WAF, it's WF. Whatever your goal is, if you go up there and you reach it, it really means something, you know. Especially, you know, people like us, we're not like spring chickens, as I mentioned, clean athletes. Accomplishments like that are really hard to come by. So when you get one, it's really something to appreciate.
Yeah, I'll be 46 in a month and a half, and I was real close, Josh. And I'm telling you, it's like for me, I understand I have friends on both spectrums that are, you know, hey, WAF, that are IFA, and you know, for me, it was just like, you know what, there was, you know, with all the other, you know, misconceptions aside, it felt real good to hop on that podium and raise that American flag. I mean, for some, not a lot of people get a chance to experience that. And so, yes, I'm pulling masters, and, you know, and here's the thing. I'll be the first to tell. I have no problem bragging about, hey, I took second place at the Worlds at the Masters division. Yes, I will brag that because I did a lot of training up to that. Actually, it benefited me because, you know, it was supposed to be 2020, I believe, but COVID kind of wiped that out. And then they said, hey, Denise, are you going to do it again? Is it going to be Orlando? Fine. If it is, you know, with all the registrations, what has to be done this time? So, you know, everything worked out. I went down there, lost to a guy from Brazil, and it's like, okay, you know, now granted, I'm not going to sit there and try to glorify that, hey, a bunch of countries were there. I mean, there was a handful of countries there, but given the COVID restrictions, it made it hard for those countries across the pond to come over here. Did you experience that when you were at your Worlds?
You know, I thought it was going to be smaller numbers in years past, and I think some classes were smaller. But you know, they had 500 juniors there the first day. It was crazy.
Yeah.
You know, and then they ended up, the number of athletes at the end, I think, was around 1,400, and I think in years past, so they did between 1,500 and 1,700. So it was down, but it wasn't as down as much as I expected it to be. And, you know, like you said, you go into a tournament and there's, you know, you see 100 nations there and all these different flags and all these different people. It makes you excited, man, you know, because, and like you, I know some people, you know, don't respect master classes and all that crap, but I mean, you know, all the tournaments I entered this year, I won. It's not like I didn't be like Rob Vigeant and Craig Tullier, you know, but I won these tournaments and there's all serious athletes at all of them. You and I both know that to compete and win in the masters classes, you have to beat serious people. You have to train your ass off. You can't just walk up and win. Some people don't respect that, and that's on them. It's the same with the IFA and WAF thing. Again, I don't want to get into arguments about who's right and who's wrong. I mean, I feel like if it's an accomplishment that you're proud of, then that should be enough. And what other people think about it, honestly, I could give a shit. We both can name people that would get on the show and deride both of us for the goals that we've set and our accomplishments or lack thereof. But again, small people always find something to pick at or something to make fun of.
Right.
People like you and I, we respect what we've done. We respect what each other has done. And those are the kind of athletes that I like to associate with. And as you know, in arm wrestling, most people are like that. I mean, our sport has people from all different kinds of opinions and political stuff and all that kind of thing. But when you go to tournaments, everybody gets along, for the most part. It's a very collegial environment, and that's the part of the sport that I love. And that's why I'm not getting into all the backbiting crap.
Right. One more question before we change gears about the world. And somebody asked me a while ago, it said, Jody, how do you think that, or why do you think that not a lot of our guys compete on the world stage? I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? And it meant like a WOF stage, IFA, whatever. Yeah. Well, Michael Todd did pull IFA this year, but I say because, and this is my personal opinion, but I want to get your thoughts too. I always tell people the reason why guys like Chafee, Ron Bath, and those guys don't compete anymore on that stage, because I think in their career, they kind of been there, done that. Ron Bath went to a Worlds one time in Great Britain, and he took home 3 gold medals out of 4. So that alone, I don't think I've seen so much dominant as far as that. Dave Chafee won a world title in 2010, right? Kind of been there, done that. Will Cody go back? Cody Merritt? Maybe, maybe not. But I think he was the last guy, American-born guy, aside from Ron Bath.
American senior class winner.
Right. He won first place, masters and seniors, So, and for those guys who don't know out there, seniors is also considered open, just so everybody understands that. But he did it in the same year. I think it was 2019, I believe. So, and Cody wants to go back again. And, once you kind of been there, done that, it's like, okay, I've raised my bar now to where maybe I need to focus on which goes into my next topic, but I want you to answer that first. Why do you think some of the big guys don't compete on the world stage anymore?
I think there's 2 reasons for it. One, it's expensive to get over there. There's no prize money. And a lot of the top guys in the United States, they're seeking out the prize money, which I understand. The difference is with the Europeans, especially, Eastern European and Southeast Asian countries, a lot of them will pay their athletes for medaling there. $15,000 for gold, US $10,000 for silver, $5,000 for bronze.
Yep.
And in the United States, it's not like that's a small amount of money. In some countries over there, that's a yearly income for an average family. So if you have the opportunity to go to your nationals, the Europeans and worlds, and potentially win $15,000 in each one of them, you're going to train like it's your job. It's all that matters to you, and it's your key focus in life. And when their coaches get paid 30% of the winnings of all the people that they coach, all the folks on national teams, then there's a real financial incentive for people to become professional coaches as well. And there's only a few countries that do that. I guess maybe 10 of them.
Yeah.
Over there, Bulgaria, Turkey, Kazakhstan, places like that. But just imagine that. I mean, imagine the motivation. Like for us, if you could win $100,000 by going to Worlds and winning it, everybody that we know and respect in this country would be going.
Right.
They'd all be going, right? And we don't have that motivation like they do. For them, it's life-changing money. For us, we get nothing. Like it cost me $3,000 to go over there, fly over there, compete, enter, buy the shirts, everything else. And at the end, I get the medal, which I love. And I got 2 of them and a team shirt. And that's it. The only thing you bring home other than that is pride. And so for me, being, a 50-year-old guy, I have the financial resources to do it. To me, it's worth it. But if I was Rob Vigent, would I invest $3,000 or $4,000 of my money to go over there and get the medal when I already can say that I'm among the world's best? I don't know.
Yeah, and like you said, you have a gold medal, and I think once you reach that pinnacle, nobody can take that from you. That's just the honest. Hey, I got this, world medal. All I have right now is a 2nd place silver medal from the IFA Worlds, but I cherish that bad boy like any other. My 1st place at a local tournament. Because
you should.
Yeah, the preparation what I did for that. Now that same question morphs into our next topic, East versus West. And I know when you have those big names out there like a Todd, those guys been there, done that. And you got to go, okay, I've proven myself over time, like a Chafee, like a Ron Bath, guys like that, Devin, Brezink, list goes on and on. They've proven themselves that, you know what? And it's not that I'm so much more superior that I can, stick my nose up at. It's just the fact that, hey, I've been there, done that. What's more of a challenge to me? Going to an East and West and pulling guys like a Sasho or Alex Cadorette or things like that. That's what you want to do, because more oftentimes than not, when you are so dominant in your own country, one has to sit there and wonder, I wonder how I do against guys in Europe, things like that. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, being invited, obviously, I'm part of the organizational staff of this East versus West endeavor, the last one and this one. And, like Engen is the guy who's setting most of the matches. And we initially were going to have 5 of them.
Right.
But Engen is like, Engen, he's like, he loves the sport so much, he just can't stop setting matches. And we reach out this person, we call this person. So pretty soon we get like 20 matches. And every single one of them is like headline worthy.
Yeah.
And if you're invited to be on that card, like Cody, for example, or Todd or Michael, any of those guys, of course you want to do it, because you're like, every person that you see on this list is somebody we all know. There might be 1 or 2 exceptions, and not everybody over here is as familiar with Eastern European polos, but like people like you and me who follow the sport a lot, we know all these people, and it's just like you're just salivating at the idea of seeing these matches, and having that many on one card is unbelievable. So if someone said, Jody, come over here and pull the guy who won your class at WEF, this year, you'd be like, hell yeah, I'm coming.
Yeah.
You're just gonna figure out how to make it work.
Yeah,
right?
you're damn right.
Incredible. So you can see why they want to do it. And somebody like John, I don't think anybody really could. I mean, probably somebody could encapsulate why he's still so motivated to compete against guys like Zoloev, right on the back of Lorette and, Chance Shaw, and everybody's pulling. But the guy's a freaking machine, So I feel so lucky that we're going to get to see him pull again against Zoloev. I think that match is going to be incredible. It's actually the one I'm looking forward to the most, I think. Let me just think. I'm actually looking forward to Todd Hutchins' match a lot too, and I'm looking forward to see Oleg, Zok, Paul, and Fee. I guess there's a lot of them that I really want to see, but Brezink is right up there, obviously.
We got a couple check-ins. Jim Fitzsimmons says hello, champs.
Yeah, man, it's Fitzy. Fitzy's my original coach back in 1987. I went to some tournament. I went 2-2. He was talking to my dad. My dad ended up driving me over there. And then like 20 years later, when I came back to sport, he was doing practice the same night in the same basement with a lot of the same guys. It's like, wow, it's crazy to me that you could run a practice for that many decades, same people, same place, same night, same basement, everything. Yeah, so Fitzy's legit, man.
It gets to a point where those become legendary, because you can walk in there, it's almost like, wow, so-and-so used to train here. So-and-so has came here and trained before, and now you're on the same table, the same footsteps. I know I sound kind of corny when I say that, but
no, you're right. That's where Cobra got to start, in that basement. Jerry Cadorette trains down there. RVJ has been down there a long time.
Yeah.
Mike Shalhoub, Norm Devio. It's like there's legends down there.
I mean, there's certain cities, areas where you kind of go, man, like for me out west, you go to Reno, Nevada, the Biltmore, Hollow Grounds, because the fact that, every year the USA Nationals were there, and every year you get guys from the East Coast, Midwest, but because it wasn't a unified national, then you have people from Canada going. They had that every year. So you go there and kind of go, man, or the Mohegan Sun. I mean, stuff like that where you kind of go, man, it's just, you kind of take it all in. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? You kind of take it all in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Shoes and Soul says, congratulations, Josh. Incredible accomplishment. There you go.
I know who that is. Thank you. It's nice to have your friends check in on you.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah, go for it.
RVJ, Ryan Bowen. I'm just curious to know, because I do believe that's one of the East versus West matches, correct?
that's one of the king of the table. I think it's king of the table 3. But I'm happy to tell you your thoughts on that match because Rob is someone who lives just 45 minutes from me.
Yes.
Who I love. And he's one of those guys that I feel like if I could ever, somehow like figure out the inner workings of his mind and press like the motivation trigger and just leave it on overdrive, I feel like he would just wreck shop across a world. I honestly do, especially for a natural athlete like him. His gifts and his power level when he's training are so incredibly insane that I feel like there's probably nobody he couldn't beat. But he's got children. That's the most important thing to him in his life. He's a stay-at-home dad. He takes wonderful care of his kids and his family. That's what really motivates him. And so, that Sasha match I was talking about, I was like, if he had 3 or 4 months to prepare for that, I think it would have gone differently. And
right.
I have to be honest with you, as much as I enjoy Ryan, I had him on the show a bunch of times. If he wins a match, I'm going to be shocked.
Well, I'll tell you what.
It's just one of those things.
And before I get deep into this, I got a message that says, tell Josh I said hi from Sam.
Sam is one of our youngest. I think he might actually be our youngest team member on Arsenal of Arms. He's just bought his first table.
Nice.
His mom and dad bring him by. He's a really good kid. He works really hard. He's super strong. He's going to be a beast. He only weighs 140 pounds, too. And obviously, there's never a 140-pound class, so he's always entering 54s and giving them hell.
Hey, keep at it, buddy. Keep at it.
Yeah, man.
So, Brian Bowen, and it was funny because now I had a chance to listen to the whole interview that Neil Pickup had on, and I'm out there shoveling snow listening to the podcast. And what struck me is that, there's 2 different philosophies, and these guys got 2 different approaches to the game, right? And it goes to show you that as far as training and what you believe in, it's not always the same thing. And I think it's a good thing because if we all thought the number one thing training was A or B or C, then we all be a bunch of walking androids. Like, we'll take you for an example. What's your background? Rock climbing, strengthens your hand, so not a lot of people do that, but that works for you. And you've, capitalized on that, and it worked for you, and look where you are, world champion now, right? Mm-hmm. So now is everybody going to start doing that? I don't know. I like to use a lot of hand grippers. And before anybody, wants to, destroy me about that comment, yes, I know your hand is backwards when you make them squeeze, but I have exercise I do to where my wrist is not backwards. It's like this. So I understand that, but I like squeezing things. And hell, RBJ will tell you he comes from a grip background. I like doing that kind of stuff, So philosophies. What do you think as far as Ryan and RBJ go?
I mean, having watched both of them for a long time, I feel like Ryan, he trains really hard. He trains very consistently. But if you've watched him carefully over the last few years, he keeps readjusting his approach to training. Like he was doing the Hutchins stuff, and he was working with Devin. He has his own stuff. He mixes in a lot of other cuts. So I think, honestly, he's still figuring out what the best method of training is for his body, his physique, his genetics, all that kind of stuff, which is normal. I think I've been in the sport a long time. I feel like I'm starting to figure it out. And I think Rob has a much more kind of intuitive approach. He really understands his body. So I think his training that he does is really effective. And the question is, will he train as hard as he needs to? Like the only fear that I have, Jody, is that if he doesn't take Bowen really seriously, like other people have made this mistake. I mean, you and I know a ton of people have underestimated Ryan and got burned for it.
Yeah. And
that's one thing about Ryan. You're going to give him massive credit for it. If you give him a window, he's going to jump all the way through it, and he's going to give you hell. So that's what it comes down to me is Rob going to take it seriously and train intelligently like he does when he's really serious? Like if you remember at WAL in the regionals, he was the only person that gave Todd any hell.
Yeah.
And he had a winning record on Hutchins going into the finals where Hutchins ended up beating him. But people tend to kind of forget that he was the only person that even slowed Todd down that entire WAL, when it was in its height for those 2 or 3 years.
Exactly.
So that's the kind of power that he has. So if he's got that turned on and he's got it trained, he's incredibly difficult to beat.
Well, and the thing is, what I see is this. Before all this came about, RBJ wanted nothing to do with Ryan. It's like, dude, he's not on my level. I don't care about that guy, blah, 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 blah. But now that it's been kind of, I don't want to say force-fed, but now we got this thing going. And listening to that interview with Neil Pickup, and Neil just kind of said, all right, guys, you guys got the platform, do your thing. And they're kind of going back and forth. And what I saw was Ryan kind of taking little subtle jabs at RBJ that kind of made him go off. And I'm thinking, okay, this is where Ryan's going to play the mind game. And if RBJ is not careful, he gets so pissed off that can be in his own way. He can get in his own way and actually lose that match. And I don't want that to happen.
He can, but I'll tell you what, just having seen him pull so frequently, the one thing that you don't want to do with RBJ is give him something to get pissed off about. Because when he has that, his motivation level goes. He's like people always say about Belichick and the Patriots. If you give him some kind of fuel, he's gonna burn you with it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if Rob gets really motivated, when you think about it, his ceiling is still unknown because he really, other than that, maybe we saw his peak during that time in WAL, but for the last 3 or 4 years, he hasn't trained straight through as hard as he could have. So if this is the match that motivates him to do that, and he ends up, coming in top shape, I think it's gonna be a bad day for Ryan. But as I said before, Ryan has that sneaky way, man, of getting these wins on people that you think he should be in a different class from.
Right.
So I'm never going to count him out completely, but I do think that Rob's going to train hard and take it seriously, and I think he has the knowledge base and the power to manipulate the match however he sees fit. Ryan Bowen is not Sasha,
Yeah.
at the end of the day. I mean, I know Ryan wants to be. He may end up getting there one day because he's certainly a driven person. But Sasha is one of those guys, he's like a 1 in a billion athlete, and, going up against him is a tough out for anybody.
Well, I think with RBJ, he needs this. Both guys actually really need this in the worst way, and I'll tell you why. But RBJ, when we went to Arm Wars and we saw him, and it was like, you know what? It's just by watching that, RBJ looked like he didn't want to be there. It could have been the trip over there. It just took a lot out of him, and that wasn't the RBJ that we all know. Now, he's going to take a trip over there again across the pond, but I assure you that, okay, I'm not going down there losing 6-0, especially to somebody named Ryan Bowen. I think that alone and some of the stuff he was saying on the show really kind of got to him like, okay, that's fine. You want to do this? You watch what happens. So I think that alone is going to motivate him. On Ryan Bowen's side, it's kind of, I don't know. What do you take with the Lachlan Adair match? Because Lachlan outweighed him, but I don't know how much. And it was like going, Ryan, you don't need to be pulling guys that size, honestly, in my opinion. He's not built for that, honestly. I don't care how much weight you gain. It's like when Paul Lynn gained, he went up to 230 pounds to pull John Brzezinski. That's not where he wants to. You could just tell Paul had to weigh that much to figure if he had a shot at John Brzezinski, where it's, he doesn't like to do that. So I think, from that standpoint, hey, you know what? We still don't know what we know from Ryan. We don't know because I can't base everything off that Adair match,
Yeah, I agree with you about that. I mean, we're going to find out one way or another. We have to wait and see what happens. But I do agree with you. I think Rob walks around at like 205. He doesn't do anything. I don't know what the weight is. There a weight cap for that match? I don't even know. But if you figure they both come in around 95 kilos or something like that,
yeah, Rob's
going to be sitting at a weight that is really natural for him. And, and Ryan has been at a heavier weight for a long time, but I remember when he was, 170, 175 when he first came onto the scene. And it wasn't like he didn't look skinny. He looked like that was his natural frame. So the more weight you put on a frame, the more it makes me wonder if it's going to end up being beneficial or not.
Right.
I mean, like people are talking about with Devin and Levon. No, Devin's going to go in weighing 300 pounds. It was like, can he put on 45 pounds of functional weight between now and then, honestly, even with all the, steroids and drugs and whatever else he's going to take? Can you really put on 40 pounds of muscle by the time the Levon match comes up? I don't think so. Not at his age. I mean, he's our age.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk East versus West, though. Throw me some matches. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I don't know which one you're looking forward to most, man, but I mean, I told you already the ones I'm looking forward to probably the most are Hutchins versus Sonev, Thea versus Rebecca. I think that's going to be really cool. Ron Bath, I got to say something about Ron Bath, right? Because we reached out to him early on about being on the card.
Mm-hmm.
And Ron was like, hell yeah, I'll be on it. And, Angie's going to be on it too, which is great. But Ron was like, I'll pull anybody. He was willing to pull like the 110 kilo WAF winner. He's like, whoever you want to send me, send me. And I really respect that. You brought him up earlier. And to me, the fact that he's just like a warrior, you know what I mean? It's like throw whoever you want in front of me and I'll pull him. And
Right.
he's got FA. And FA and Herman had a match at the first East versus West and went FA's way. I know Herman had some trouble with the reffing and, he's not wrong about it. That one match was a little bit, anyway, it is what it
Yeah.
is. So now we're going to get to see Ron Bath versus FA, which I think is left arm, which I think is an unbelievable match.
Right.
I think Ron has a really good chance in it. And of course, Oleg, I think a lot of people don't really know Oniani and how good he is because he's not someone that necessarily everybody here has heard about, but that match is unbelievable.
Right. I'm going to tell you something. When you see, and we'll bring up Angie Rose versus Anna Gronlund. And Anna, and on the WAP stage, right? So you're aware of her. Lives in Denmark now.
I know her well.
Yeah. And I don't want to say this the wrong way, but a few years ago, she was kind of chubby. And I've seen her because I follow her on Instagram. We kind of chat, every once in a while. To see her do a total 180, change her whole body frame to where she's just putting in the work. She trimmed down. She got stronger. And just like you, finally got that, reached that pinnacle and got that WAF championship. And I'm telling you right now, when someone's like that on the horizon and you got Angie Rose and, she's just as motivated to compete against somebody from Europe, that is going to be an intriguing match. But to the point, I don't know who to pick. I really don't.
One other thing about Anna is that she's also training with Engin.
Yeah.
So you can just add that into the equation. Yeah, I think that's a great match. I think Angie is somebody that people sleep on a little bit, but if you watch her at WL, she's serious.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a really close match. I think it'll be exciting. I just think there's a couple of really good women's matches on this card too. It's always cool when you can mix it up a little.
And that's go ahead.
I was going to say Cody versus Morozov is going to be amazing too, because I honestly think that Russian clown needs to get knocked down a little bit because he's saying a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? It's one thing to be confident, but you never pulled these guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have to have a little bit of humility, honestly. He's going to say going to blast everybody and blow everybody away. Well, maybe he will, and maybe I'll be eating my words in a month. But Cody is a tough out left-handed.
You know what? I'm telling you what, and I think why I want Cody to win so bad because I'm looking forward. Because if all the planets align correctly, come May 2022, we can finally see Bajent in a situation where he really has to take something seriously.
Dude, I saw that he has a match with Brandon Alcester. I was really surprised about that because, I know Travis and Brandon. They're both great people. But it seems like, that's Brandon taking on a really, really, really big challenge, So it was interesting to me that Travis would accept a match like that. Obviously, you can see why Brandon was. He's like, hell yeah, I'll get a chance to take out Travis. But, Travis has nothing to gain from that match, if you ask me.
No, we like to call those trap matches. So if you're watching college football and Alabama, you're about to play Georgia in 2 weeks, but you got the Citadel the week before because you're looking forward to playing Georgia, you got to watch out. But it's a trap match. So I look at it like this. Brandon has nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, Travis, well, and maybe Travis is looking at it like, well, you know what? It's all about giving opportunity. So Chance Shaw, Dimitri, Kotlin, Paul Lynn had the opportunity to pull, hey, John Brezink. So now maybe Travis is in that situation where I'm going to give somebody an opportunity to pull me. Now, I don't think Brandon's going to be, some kind of, sideshow. He's going to actually give it his all and stuff. And I saw him in person when he came to Washington State a few weeks ago, and he gave it everything he got, and he destroyed some people. We're talking guys with Jordan Seal involved and Jacob Abbott and Andrei Sharkovich. I'm telling you right now, he's the real deal. But Travis is on another level. So when I say tune-up match, it's no disrespect to Brandon, but Travis needs to know where he's at. That way, okay, I know I need to work on. So come May, Cody wins his match, at East versus West. I beat Brandon Alcester. Now we can make a build-up. And I think training will get real serious between those two.
Oh, I think so, too. I'm rooting for Brandon. I'd love to see him win. I think that would be it would be crazy and it would be great. And that's probably why it would be so great, because it would be so crazy.
Yeah.
But it's going to be fun to watch. It's cool that we have so many options coming up, Jody. We had a year and a half of quiet, and now we get these crazy events back to back to back. It's going to be a good year.
You know what? I'm glad the sport's back to where it needs to be. I mean, when COVID knocked out a lot, we're talking it knocked out the Arnold, knocked out Worlds, knocked out all these other events, and now they're coming back. So I like what Larry Wills is doing. I like what Egan's doing. Neil Pickup got Arm Wars back up and running. We still have our, regular ones we have in the country with, the Arnold Classic. You still got Woth's doing their thing, IFA's doing their thing, Paul Italia's doing some good stuff. So, I mean, all over, it's getting back to where it should be, and I'm so glad,
I mean, we had 330 entries at New England's this year, which was actually the biggest one ever.
Wow.
And it was in between this Omicron stuff and after Delta. So it was like it fell right into the little pocket when people were kind of relaxed and happy.
Right.
But it was just cool to see. We were running 3 tables. It still took us 7 hours to get through the whole day. That's how many people were there. It really, I mean, even though it was a long day, it just made me happy. Like, sport's going to come back.
Yeah. We just can't be in a rush. But,
No.
So what's next for you, Josh?
Well, I actually was thinking about going to Arnold's. I'm trying to figure out if it's actually going to happen with Omicron and travel and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, I'm going to stick with my basic plan, which is focusing on nationals and worlds, at least for this year, and go to a lot of local tournaments. I'd love to get out your way and compete with some of those guys out there I've never pulled before.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to go to as many tournaments as I can and try to do it in a way that minimizes the amount of time off I have to take. And then, Turkey is hosting Worlds next year. So I think Turkey is an unbelievable country. If you've never been, it's really one of those places everybody should visit. So I definitely am hoping to defend, left and right hand over there next year. So that's what I'm going to focus on. What about you?
Well, let's see here. Man, it's just, there's so much going on right now. There's a situation where I'm thinking, okay, well, Paul Italia, linked up with him and stuff. He's putting on events and he wants me to do a couple of shows, which is good. I got a project coming up that may or may not happen. So I'm kind of just going to leave that on the sideline for now until I know more about it. But as you know, my wife and I put on this LLD Foundation tournament in honor of our son. So 2022 will be our second edition. So I have a match with one Robbie Topi, left-handed.
Nice.
So
that'll be a big match for you.
Yes, that'll be, something to really focus in on. So, and we got some other things going on here in Oregon. Because of this COVID thing and stuff, that we decided, me and a couple of guys created this Oregon rankings deal where, hey, not a lot of tournaments happen in Oregon as much as they used to. So to get everybody still involved in the actual, arm wrestling, besides all this time to travel everywhere, we decided, hey, let's just have an Oregon rankings thing where we have a big practice and we have it once every 4 months or whatnot. And then, hey, we got rankings 1 through 40 or whatever the case may be. And you can challenge somebody for their spot. So let's just say,
I like that.
I live in Bend, Oregon. Let's just say Josh Grant moved to Medford, Oregon for some reason. And I'm ranked number 1 and you're ranked number 5. Well, guess what? If you were to beat me, then you take my spot. You go from 5 to 1. I drop down a notch, but if you lose, then you stay where you're at. So So look at it. So there's every weight class. We got 54, 76, 98, 220. No, I'm sorry, 242 and then 243 and over. So, your basic, Denise and Leonard Harkless weight classes.
Well,
now,
European standard.
Right. Outside of that, you also have the overall rankings. So it's like, all right, cool. You could challenge somebody for their overall spot. So I have one coming up. February 12th is the next one. So I challenged a guy named Josh Heck, big power guy. He's like the number 1 guy in the state in the 243 and over. And I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to just challenge him for a spot left-handed to see what happens. So I'm training for that. But the whole purpose of us getting that together was to kind of keep the juices flowing, because without no tournaments, I can totally see people kind of slowly phasing away. And like now is a perfect time to get into the sport and stay in it,
We did that or something similar, not exactly the same. Like, Badger, who runs Granite Arms up in New Hampshire, we did like a state versus state thing, and we brought a bunch of guys from Massachusetts and Rhode Island up to his big practice in New Hampshire, and we did like something like 20 or 30 little super matches right in the middle of right when they started to, get rid of the mask mandates, we went up there and did that. It was a total blast. It was super fun. We didn't even think of ranking people. That would have been cool because it would have kept it going a little bit longer. But it's good to do something to keep everybody's toes in the water.
Yeah.
But I thought you were gonna. I think I read something about you were kind of trying to cut down on weight.
Yeah, I was. My original thought, and I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying this, but we gotta be careful nowadays, right? But I was gonna drop down a weight class, which I still plan on doing, but I was gonna drop even further down because John Thompson, Uncle John, right?
Oh yeah.
And we got to talking and stuff, and Neil had an idea to have me and John pulled out of potential Arm Wars, hopefully in September. Now,
cool.
The thing is though, is that John is going down. He wants to be about 185. There's no way I'm going to 185. I mean, I'd be a freaking, bobblehead. There's no way I can do that. But I told Uncle John, hey, man, you know what? I will cut down to 210 for you, And even at that point, John and I had this match planned for the last 2 years now, but because of all the COVID things, it's been knocked out. So it's been like bumped back, on a couple occasions. So we're thinking, okay. So one night on Uncle John on his show, I was on there, hey, what's going on? That kind of stuff. And then Neil chimed in and Pickup said, hey, do you think you can bust back Chocolate Thunder's hand? And it was funny because I had it on my phone and I'm like, loading the dishwasher, just, listening, but, doing my kitchen stuff. And when I heard it, I stopped, like dried my hands and looked back. I'm like, did he say what I thought he said? And I'm looking, I'm going, okay. So now we're talking back and forth and, that could be a possible match. I'm thinking, cool. Uncle John was like, dude, I'll pull you no matter what you weigh. I was like, no, I'll make it somewhat fair. I'll cut to 210, So I'm thinking, all right, cool. If this thing's a go, it is so on because in my opinion, and Josh, like I am, I'm a WWE fan, and you are too, where if you go to Arm Wars, to me, that's like the WrestleMania of arm wrestling. You're on the big stage, Neil Pickup's Mean Gene, Oakland, whatever the case may be, and that's it. But recently, Neil said, hey, I don't think that'd be a good matchup for you. And I'm thinking, So I don't know if that means he has somebody else in mind or whatever the case may be, because if that's the case, then am I still cutting to 210? I don't want to do that if I'm not pulling Uncle John, because that's the sole purpose of me weighing that much is to pull him in September. But
that's a big cut for you.
Right. But, because I'm like currently like 226, whatever. But, for me, it's like going, okay, what am I actually doing here? Because I know Arm Wars is coming up. Uncle John's on the card. It's in next month, actually. And he's pulling Maynard Ninjas, right? I forgot who else he's pulling on the other hand, but left hand he's pulling Maynard Ninjas. Awesome matchup. Now, Neil's so, focused on this one. He's not focused on the next Arm Wars event, but he did say, hey, I want to kind of get you down there. So, but I don't know what opponent though. And that's the one thing that's kind of looming right now. I don't know what my opponent is. And if it's not Uncle John, then do I need to cut to 210? I mean, that's just some details I got to iron out,
Yeah.
So,
well, when I went in person to the first East versus West event, and Engen was kind enough to get me a match, and I had a guy in mind who's a puller named Unal Turker, who's a guy I pulled twice at Worlds, and one time I beat him, one time he beat me, and I was like, that'd be fun. He's a world champion. So I was like, I want to pull him. But he had COVID at the time, and so he ended up finding a guy for me that I didn't know who was significantly bigger than me.
Right.
And I said yes, just because I wanted to pull somebody. But so this guy had to cut down to 97 kilos. That's the catch weight we agreed on.
Right.
But it was just fun to have a match, even though I didn't really know the guy. To be in Turkey, pulling a Turkish guy with Turkish refs and all that kind of stuff, it was a full experience.
So tell me how that went, because I saw that match and it just seemed like you had so much hand control. It was just like, okay, I don't know who I'm pulling, but after match one,
watched his videos.
What's that?
I watched all of his videos and I saw that he gave up his wrist a lot.
Right.
So I was thinking if I could get just over his wrist a tiny bit while I'm pulling back, that he would lose most of his arm lever strength against me and I could outlast him.
Right.
And I saw that he also liked the King's move. So I was, I prepared to press him when he did that. And I felt that a couple of the calls were a little bit questionable, but that always happens. You know what it's like in the sport. I mean, you got to respect the refs, and they're not going to get everything. That's just is what it is. But I watched him carefully, and I talked to Bob Brown about it. I try not to bother Engen because it's a countryman of Engen, and I don't want him to feel like, who do I help?
Right.
But Bob Brown gave me some good advice. Badger and Fitzy gave me some good advice, and I listened to all of them, and I just worked on that one angle, pulling straight back with that little, like trying to get a little bit of a cup as I pull back to try to, destroy his hand right off the bat. And I noticed if you watch the match again, you can see he was getting pretty winded already after the first match. So I felt really good after that one.
Well, the entire match, you had a stone face. Like your facial expression didn't change at all. Mm-hmm. Your body language kind of changed because I think after the first match, I could tell your body language was like, oh, okay, I think I know what this guy has. And after that, it was kind of like, okay, we're good. Let me just kind of get through this without any injury, and I'll be fine. So, But with that being said, are you going to get another call or what? Because, hey.
Well, Engen did offer me a match over there, and I'm not 100% sure I'm going. And the other thing I said is, like, Engen, I don't expect you to give me a match just because I'm coming. If you look at the card, there's so many unbelievable matches. It's like if I was going to get a match, I want it to be like the day before, so nobody will have to waste their time watching it because there's all these like superheroes of arm wrestling. It's like who wants to watch a couple of masters pulling? But sometimes those masters matches are actually the most fun.
Yes, so, because
we'll see if I go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the reason why I love masters is because of the fact that we're talking about a lot of knowledge on the table. They may not be the biggest. They may not have the star-studded power household names, but these guys have been around the block, meaning that I've been doing this for 12 years. I kind of got in late in the game, but when you start pulling and you got like a decade or so and more into the sport, you're savvy on the table. You know your ins and outs. And I think people kind of overlook that over time because, the power, it's the king's move. It's, this, that, and the other, which is fine. But, there's something to be said about having smarts on the table, being table savvy. I think a lot of people kind of forget that. You know what I mean?
They do. And it is something you run into pretty much with every master you pull. And all the hardest matches I've ever had have been at masters. So I either get flashed or flash people typically in the open class. And the masters, you always just seem to be the hardest matches, man. People are so clever and they know what you're going to do and they have the perfect counter. And it's just to get into these really long battles. It's just so much fun.
Right.
I pulled a really great master down at Joe Drellick's event in Summer Smash, Ben Shiro. I'd never pulled him before. And it was so much fun pulling him. You know what I mean? It was hard as hell because he's strong as an ox. But it was an enjoyable experience, to pull somebody who's like similar in age is just so good.
Right. Well, I'm assuming that maybe after this next East versus West match that Engen has, I'm sure at some point it's going to be another one before the year is over with. But
I think so.
The question is when, because I know if it's later in the year, that's when we got to go. If I'm Josh Grant and he gets a call, then I'm going, okay, well, hey, when are we doing this? Because I'm prepping for Worlds in Turkey. I'm going to be over there anyway. But first things first, I think Nationals is in Kansas City, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's that. I want to say April, but I could be wrong.
That's right. It's April, yeah.
Okay. So you go, you qualify there, you do what you got to do. Now you're training for Worlds. And, okay, Worlds is in Turkey next year in September. Now, if Engen has another event coming up, maybe August, maybe July, then what are your thoughts then if he gave you a call and say, hey, I would love for you to come here? What would your
I'll try to convince him to do it in Boston. I keep telling him, you should come over here and everybody wants to see you. Everybody wants to train with you. We can do an East versus West card over here. And I haven't convinced him yet, but I keep talking to him about it.
Is he open for that?
Yeah, he was. He was actually before. I think it was before the Delta variant when it looked like we were coming out of this the first time. He was planning on doing like a 5 or 6 city trip.
Okay.
And I don't know if you ever spent any time talking to Engen, but he's like a arm wrestling encyclopedia. It's just you just learn just by being near him.
Right.
So I think it would be really cool if we did get him over here and if we made it like an event, something similar to East versus West. And then maybe Engen could hang out for a week or two and tour to do some seminars in a few cities. That thing, because a lot of people know who he is, but they don't understand. Like we have in our country, Bob Brown is probably our version of Enga in the sense of the amount of knowledge he has about arm wrestling.
Oh yeah.
Just if you get time to spend with people like that, it's invaluable.
And so I can sit there with Bob Brown, drink a beer, and just listen and not say one word.
Mm-hmm.
I could ask one question and the answer will last about 10 minutes. And every 10 minutes is worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was wondering that because so far all the Arm Wars and the East versus West and the King of the Table, they're all over there. So anybody from North America that's competing, I have to go over there. So I'd be kind of curious if something will happen on the mainland. You know what I mean?
I'm working on them. I think as travel, first of all, Turkey is a very easy country to travel to because you can go there. You know, if you have a vaccination card, you just show it, you walk right in. If you don't have a vaccination card, they want you to test within 24 hours of getting there. But if you do either of those things, you can walk right in. It's super easy to get a visa. It's a very welcoming and open country because, you know, treating visitors well is like a matter of national pride for them.
Right.
And that's why it's a great place to host a tournament or an event like this. But that being said, a lot of people overseas haven't necessarily had a chance to come to the United States. And the United States is a fun place to visit too. It's a huge country, lots of stuff to do here.
Yeah.
And I think you wouldn't have any trouble getting people to agree to come over here. So
no
I'm
doubt.
going to keep working on them about it, you know?
Yeah, hopefully we can do that kind of stuff. We have somebody in the chat says, hey, would love to see East versus West in Boston. So, I mean, that would be awesome at any kind of event like that. But I know right now, honestly, your best bet to have a big time event here with a name as far as that, you have to get a hold of Paul Talia because he's doing stuff here in the States that's like going, wow. And I've been to a few of his events. I've been invited to a few of his events and did pretty well. And from a business standpoint, I mean, for some reason, a lot of people don't like Paul for whatever reason, but he's doing things that would never have been done. He's making matches happen, something we always dreamed about and talked about, water cooler talk, but he actually makes them come true, you know? So I'm glad he's doing what he's doing.
But I mean, I've heard what you said. I've heard some people, speaking poorly of him. I haven't met him or talked to him at all yet, but I mean, whenever somebody comes into the sport and makes some kind of splash, whether it be financially or in some other manner, a lot of people just don't like it, and so regardless of what happens, they're going to have a negative impression of it. And I don't know if that's what's going on, but I mean, I feel like anybody that's putting together solid matches that we all get to watch and participate in, I think that's good for the sport, and it's a good thing in general.
Well, here's the thing. He puts it on, but he follows through with them. And Josh, you've been around the sport long enough, and so have I, where we've seen people put on these great events, and all of a sudden the bottom drops off last minute. It's like, what the fuck,
Exactly. How many times does that happen? So someone keeps their word, it means a lot.
Well, and then you also look at too with Marvin Cohen. Now they had that Mr. Olympia thing go on this fall, and it went pretty good. I suppose there's going to be another one, but I have yet. Listen, I've been living under a rock. I have yet to hear any kind of details from that. So
I'll be honest with you. I thought there was zero chance that people were going to get paid out from that event. So I'm very impressed that it happened the way it was supposed to happen.
Yeah, when I heard people had to sign a 1099, I was like, oh shit, because it was funny because I was actually, trying to watch it. I'm thinking, who's getting paid and stuff. And then I remember Ron Bath put a post, said, okay, are you guys getting paid or what? And while that was going on, I'm up here, talking with Paul Passmore. We're like going, dude. And Paul's like, I don't trust it. And, he was just like, I don't want to go there, do all that, and then not get paid. And I understand where people are coming from because it seems like every other event Marvin did, something would happen. For every good event he did another one that kind of flopped, and then he goes away for 6 years, right? So
yeah.
Because didn't he do a WL one like that where last minute he bailed out?
He's been. I'm not going to go back and badmouth the guy, but there's definitely a few events he was involved in that didn't happen, and people felt like they were left out in the cold. So,
right.
My assumption was that it was going to be another. I mean, Scott Wynn was involved, and I get along really well with Scott, and I trust him. So I felt like if he's involved, there's a much better chance they're going to do what they say they're going to do, and that's how it turned out. So I think that's great. Yeah.
And Rush Schroeder said there's some very exciting things that's going to be happening in 2022. And my thing is that 2022 is going to put the arm wrestling year And I'm telling you right now, I mean, it's at a point where you can pick. Arm wrestler can pick what they want to do. And if you do good at it, then you'll have guys calling you going, hey, I'm thinking, do you want to be a part of this? I have a match for you. I have gotten offers from that. I'm very grateful to get those opportunities because I can tell you right now, about 5 years ago, I would have never got that opportunity. But because, you and I, we've been training, you a little bit more than me. You went to East First West. You participated in that over there. You participated and won the world at a world stage. So you're at a point now where, like, you know what? If I got a phone call now, you can sit there and go, hey, let me think about it and get back to you. It's always nice to be that person. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jody. And I'm sure you've seen at your practices, there's tons of new people coming into the sport, more than I've ever seen before. So it just makes it all the more exciting. Because you get to see, our successes are great when you see people on your team start to win events or win matches at events for the first time. Personally, it motivates me a lot just to be excited about the sport and wonder where we're going to be in the next 5 years and if we're really going to get down the pathway to the Olympics or if it's just going to be a much bigger and more professional sport in the United States. Because that's my one wish, the events that Leonard and Denise run versus some events that we go to that are super fun, but are really like the kind of like not serious events, not professionally run, loose rules, kind of like weird brackets, just kind of like unprofessional stuff. And you go overseas and you see how they run everything, and they take it as seriously as the Olympics. They take it like this is a life or death thing. This is my career. This is my life.
Right.
And they treat it that way. And so it'd be nice to see that become more of a standard over here in the United States. Maybe guys like Paul Italia will be part of that movement, and when there's more money involved in events, people tend to take it more seriously, and then they want it to be reffed in a consistent and fair fashion so people know they're going to get a fair shake. And all of that kind of stuff lends to the sport becoming more professional, which I think is what's going to increase its popularity.
Right. Oh, we got a question for you, Josh. Josh versus a lightweight Giannis Amelins. Who would win?
Oh, Giannis would win that. No question. Like I'm very open about where I place myself and what I think I can. I mean, I would love to pull him. Don't get me wrong, but Giannis just kicked ass in the 80 kilo class seniors at WAF this year. He's 42, I think.
Yeah.
And he's still, in my opinion, he's still world class. I mean, Engen said the same thing about him. I think Giannis, he helped me a lot, as I mentioned at the beginning of this talk, and he's a very friendly and outgoing person. I think that almost everybody who encounters him has a really positive encounter with him. But I also think he would kick my ass 2 ways from Sunday, and I don't have any problem admitting that. I'm happy competing with, like, natural athletes, and I'll compete with anybody. I don't care. I always enter the Open. I always enter the Masters. And, usually I beat a lot of the steroid guys, which makes me happy. But I'm comfortable having my success in the Masters class and leave the genetic freaks and monsters to their successes in seniors.
I've always said this, and this is another comment I might get blasted for, but let's be real. I think I would love it to where you have two divisions, the non-steroid guys and the steroid guys. I think more now, 2021, you'll get more guys to admit they do that now as opposed to somebody back in 2010 where now they're more open about it, which is fine. But I just think you guys should have your own divisions. Let the best man win. I'd still watch you guys compete, but, let's be real. I mean, anytime you walk in with an unfair advantage and that, and it's like going, come on, dude, then you're going to brag about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. The part that really bugs me is when someone is knowingly using and they enter a tested event. It's one thing if you're doing it, most of the events don't test and whatever. Do what you got to do if that's what you want to do. I'm not going to badmouth you for it. But if you're using and you enter an event that's tested, I have no respect for you because in my mind, that's like a cowardly act. It's basically you're telling me you don't feel that you can match up with other natural athletes without cheating. So in my mind, that's akin to cowardice, and I have no respect for it. But people who use and are open about it, and I could name a bunch of names that are very open about it, and that's something that I respect, and I've told them to their face, hey man, you're honest about it. And that's something that, yes, I'm looking at the questions because I'm watching the show. As someone just said, do you consider TRT steroid use? And I would say, yeah. Because I'm 50, right? My
Right.
testosterone is supposed to be lower. I'm 50 freaking years old. Of course it's going to be lower. I'm not 18 anymore.
Right.
If I went into the doctor's office and they're like, "Listen, your T is so low that it's gonna significantly impact your health," I would listen to him and I would take it. But outside of that, yes, it's a PED. I think it's one of those PEDs that people like to pretend it isn't a PED, but it is. And if you use it and you're entering sports that you're not supposed to be using it, where they specifically say don't use it, and you do it anyway, then in my mind you're cheating, and that's just something you have to deal with on your own.
Right. I mean, like for me, to me, this is still a hobby for me. I got a 9-to-5 job. I love my career working with, juveniles. I love that. The knuckleheads that think they know everything about the world. I got to kind of put them in check from time to time. But that's my career. That's what I went into school for. That's the job. This right here, armor, is a hobby. I just happen to be somewhat good at it, and I want to see how far I can go. So when my pulling days are all said and done, I want to look back and go, yeah, I did pretty good for myself. Was I one of the elite pullers? No, but I was able to kind of knock some heads with some of the some good competitors and stuff. And for me, I get a rush of doing that. I just get a rush
because people like you and I, Jody, we're over 40, significantly over 40 for me, and we're not using. So every time you beat one of those guys, it's like a little badge of honor. You know what I mean? It's like you just like put a little pin up on my wall, like I got another one of them. Because then you know where they are too, because you see them in the 185 class, and then 2 months later they come back and they're 220, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, dude, really, dude. But yeah, like you said though, and I've done it before. I've busted some people, that been using. It's like there is not a better feeling. The problem with me is the fact that I didn't find out till after the fact, So
yeah. Usually I can tell if you pull someone and you pull them a few months later and they blitz you, you're like, whoa, where'd that come from? And then you have to figure out how to go back and blitz them again in the future. But it's a good challenge for people like us. And I think there's a lot of people like us out there. And everybody says everybody uses, but in my experience, if you look at the very top guys, that's probably true. But the majority of arm wrestlers are people like us. Even if we take it very, very seriously, we're not willing to go to that point to get some success, and we compete with what we have naturally, and we put it up on the table and see what happens.
Are you familiar with Arm Wrestling Uncensored?
Yeah, I was in that group when it first opened up, and I was like, after 3 days, I was like, okay, and I was like, I zipped out of there because it's like there's just too much. It's like I'm not a thin-skinned person, so there's a lot of stuff that I don't mind hearing or I can take, but it was just like I don't need this in my life.
Right.
But it was funny. I'll give him credit for that. And I'm not surprised it got banned after a very short period of time based on the stuff that I saw when I wasn't there.
And they've risen from the ashes.
I'm not a hateful person. I like to get along with people. I like to have a good relationship with other sportsmen and have conversations like we're having right now. So that's what motivates me. So generally, I'm going to be in a group like that. But I do think that despite the fact that there are a few idiots in there, I think the people behind the group are positive, and I think they like the sport, and I think they're trying to build it. I know they relaunched the group in a little bit, less insane way, and I think all that stuff ultimately is probably good for the sport. So I definitely think it's good to have them around.
Well, good. Reason why I did. You're watching the show, so you saw the question. Arm Wrestling Censored asked, "Hey, Damon, which is Damon Ransom, or Rob Kelly, and they have a super match." And reason why I like this is because. And those guys were on Uncle John's show yesterday. So now we all know the household names of the world, Laird, Barbosa, Travis, Michael, list goes on and on, Jerry Cadorette. But it's always good to have people who don't get the limelight finally get their chance to be on the stage. Because I used to be that guy, just a normal guy. Hey, you did pretty good, and now I'm not trying to say I'm a household name by any means, but some people know my nickname more than my actual name, which is fine, whatever. But it's good to see other people on the main stage. So you get Damon Ransom. Are you familiar with him and Rob Kelly?
Yeah, I'm more familiar with Damon than I am with Rob, but I know both of them.
Okay, so they got a match coming up. How do you see this going?
I see Damon winning, but as I said, I don't know Rob as well. But from what I have seen, I feel like Damon has the edge.
Well, and I would probably say that too, but I think because I'm not a sponsored guy, but I use a lot of Red Lightning arm wrestling products, and I have a handle actually made for me. He named it after me. So I got to go with my boy Rob Kelly. But I will say this, though. Rob, if he can use that energy he does with his comments on Arm Wrestling Uncensored, take that energy to use for that onto this match, I think he'll be fine. You know, that I think he'll be fine. That's my honest opinion.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to watching it. And I could be wrong. Like I said, I don't know Rob as well. I haven't seen him around as much. So I could be completely wrong, but I think a lot of Damon.
Right.
I think if Rob does beat him, it'll be a great win for him.
Well, Josh, we've been on there for 1 hour and 4 minutes, but I got to ask you one last question. I think you may have a vested interest in this. If by chance, do you think, are we ever going to see Jerry Cadorette versus Chance Shaw? Your thoughts?
I'll tell you what. It was really close to being set up at New England's because Chance was willing to fly up for it. Chance is another guy who's really hungry. He'll pull anybody, which I respect. And I was like, Jerry, let's just do it, man. I can come up with $1,000. It's like the event was 15 minutes from his house. Drive over there, pull him, win the money, and go home. But he wouldn't do it. He thinks he's going to get 10 grand. Do it. Maybe he will. God bless him if he does. But what I think would happen, I love Chance. There's no way he beats Jerry. There's just no way it happened. Jerry is, regardless of what happened in practice or whatever you think about Jerry, when Jerry is a monster. It's an absolute machine. And I think, other than a couple of guys here and overseas, no one's touching him. I don't think he can beat Levon. And obviously, we've seen what happened. Travis, figured out how to beat him that one time. I think he has got kind of a formula in the back of his mind. Obviously, he struggled with Chafee.
Right.
And there's a few of the monsters overseas that would probably give him a hard time. But outside of that group, he's not going to be beaten.
Well, I mean, the thing is, though, and I'm wondering here myself, when you see Michael Todd, you see all the big names getting all these matches, and I'm thinking, why is even like freaking Tim Breslin have a match with Derek Smith coming up, and I'm like going, why is Jerry not getting that? Why is he not getting these matches?
I cannot tell you how many times I messaged Jerry about, dude, come over and pull this guy, come over and pull this guy, East versus West. But he's like, I'm not blaming him for it. A lot of people are hesitant about traveling or committing to stuff, and he just wasn't ready to pull the trigger on it. But we did offer him matches. And I think if there's an East versus West 3, we're going to, again, offer him matches because I think he's somebody that people would love to see pull.
Because I'm like going, are you kidding me? And I feel bad for Tim because Tim's like, are we doing this top 8 or not? Because the way they're doing it now, it's like one match at a time, whereas, hey, we're doing it, the 4 matches at one event on the same day. It's like, oh, we're going to have some here, some there. It's kind of scattered. I think they're in round 2. And Tim's like, I pulled a fucking match yet. What's going on over here?
I know. I don't blame him for that. I feel like, Tim has earned the right to be given matches and to be able to pull consistently. He's also an older guy like us. And, you need to have something to train for. You need to have that match occur. We both know Breslin is an incredibly talented puller. And, I know he was supposed to pull Prudnick. I don't know why it hasn't happened, but I think that was an incredible match. It would have been super fun to watch. And I wish it would just happen.
Wasn't an injury to Prudnick? Is that what it was? Or COVID or something like that?
I heard that he got COVID, and then I heard there was a second incidence of COVID with him. And I think only like 1 in 3,000 people that get COVID get it a second time. It's exceptionally rare. So, maybe that is what happened, but it just seemed like there's some other backstory back there. And I don't know why they haven't pulled, but they should. And if that's the case, they should have let him pull somebody else. There's plenty of guys Tim can pull, give him a match.
Well, again, at least he has a match. And it's not like, oh, Derek's a pushover. And those guys pulled before out of practice, this little impromptu super match. But now this is a new version of Derek Smith, and he's ready for it. But at least Tim has a match. I'm like, Jerry, dude, come on, man. But I think now,
listen, man, if you can figure out how to get Jerry to take a match, please let me know. Because I'm friends with a guy. Again, he's another Massachusetts person, and we talk frequently. And I can't get him to commit to his matches. And I'm not. I'll show you my text messages from him. I'm like, Jerry, come on. And he's like, It's like, dude, people want to see him pull. He's one of those guys. Oleg Zook is another one because they have really unusual styles or just unusual physical features in Oleg's case. And people like to see those guys that are just different. They like to see them fight. They like to see him pull people. So Jerry's one of those guys you can get him a match in 5 seconds.
Well, I'll tell you what. Mark my words when I say this. And everybody in the chat watching, mark my words. He will have a match. is now that he's linked up with Paul Italia, he will make it happen.
Yeah.
So, if
I'm sure he will.
you just said that, hey, if you know, let you know. I'm saying right now that he's looked up with Paul Italia, he is going to get a match. He will get a match.
Yeah,
I don't know who.
If you give him enough money, he'll definitely do it. So I'm trying to use mortgage my friendship a little bit with him to get him to pull for less money than he would pull for some other people. And I don't blame him for saying no. But I did try it.
Right. Because another talented guy, and it's sad because the last time we saw Jerry, man, let's be honest. I mean, I understand the rules with Wall.
Point blank.
What a malfunction, equipment malfunction. Granted, within the walls, you still got to pull, but you can't end the season, the WL season, the hammer, you can't end it like that. On match 5, you cannot end it like that. I'm sorry. That's like, hey, best of 5, Josh Grant and Jody Williams are going at it to see who's the best, whatever. And match 5 ends up in an elbow foul, 2 elbow fouls. I'm like, do you really want to see that, So I don't know. We haven't seen Jerry since then. And I'm like going, I understand, he's a busy man, has an awesome, job. And, his son Mason's doing his thing in football and stuff. So I know he's focused on that. But it's like going, you can't just scrape him and brush him underneath the carpet. Like, why is this guy not talking about it? I like to know from Jerry's standpoint. Now he's been traveling El Cesar. So if I'm Jerry, I'm thinking, well, hell, Devin had matches, Michael Todd, Tim Breslin has a match now. Travis has a match now. Where am I at? This is where you got to go, Jerry. Pull the trigger, dude. Say, Chance, fuck it. Don't worry about pulling for $100,000. Fuck it. Let's make this stuff happen. You want to pull, we'll make it happen. I'm at that point now.
I agree with you, man. I agree with you. And I feel like he does that once or twice, and everybody remembers him, and then that leads him to getting a big match at East versus West 3 or at King of the Table 4 or what have you,
Well, let me ask you this question then.
Go ahead.
Because Jerry a lot more than a lot of people. Do you think by him pulling Chance that it doesn't do him any good?
I think that it will, in his mind, I'm going to speak for Jerry a little bit.
Right.
He can feel free to call you up next week and tell everybody I was wrong. But I don't think he considers Chance to be a serious threat, to be honest with you. I think he sees that as an opportunity for him to make some easy money. So he's going to try to find the most money he could possibly get before he agrees to it.
Right.
Now, we talked about Ryan Bowen earlier. Chance is one of those guys, he can surprise people. But I also told you, I just don't see Chance beating Jerry, because when Jerry is on, he is unbelievably strong. People always, he does the flop wrist thing, but if you ever see people pull him at a hook, he's a freaking monster.
Yeah.
He pulls that flop wrist out against the very best people because it's incredibly hard to deal with. But he can hook with anybody, and his power level is astronomically higher than pretty much everybody else who pulls, with, as I said, exception of a very few people across the world. So, and Chance is incredible. Chance is really strong. He can probably beat everybody except maybe 10 or 15 people. So I'm putting, Jerry in the top 5 or 6. Chance might be in the top 25 or 26, but there's a big difference between those two groups.
Well, I'll tell you what. If I'm a betting man, which I am not, I'm going to propose something. And I want everybody, including yourself too, Josh, anybody watching the chat, Arm Wrestling Uncensored, Russ Schrader, Robert Kelly, everybody in the chat right now. I want you guys to say, listen to what I'm saying. And when the show's over, post it, tag me, whatever. I'm going to predict this. Sometime in 2022, you will see Jerry in a match. But guess who I think might be his opponent?
Guess? I don't know. No idea.
You guys ready for this?
Chance, you mean?
I'm going to predict it's just going to fucking blow your mind. It won't be Chance Shaw. It's going to blow your mind. I'm going to predict, and, if he has an East versus West, that'd be awesome too. But his opponent will be from North America. I'm going to predict Jerry Cadorette, Corey West will somehow hook up on the table. I'm just throwing it out there. Now, I don't know any inside information. All I'm saying is that looking at it, go, you know what? Because I think Corey's a lot bigger and stronger than Chance is. He'd be a little bit more closer to Jerry than Chance is to Jerry, in my opinion. So I'm saying that right now because, I'm predicting that right now. I want to see it. I want everybody to go out there It's Social Media Thursday. Go out there and say it. Chocolate Thunder says Jerry Cadorette versus Corey West. Who would win? Arm uncensored. Do your thing, because I think that
I can tell you that Corey West was on Engen's radar. He's definitely somebody Engen is aware of and watching because his name was brought up several times in the East versus West card. So he's definitely a serious person. Once Engen knows who you are and is paying attention to what you're doing, that's pretty important.
Yeah. So I'm saying it right now. So, and like I said, maybe I'm a little crazy for doing stuff like that, but I think that'd be an awesome matchup because we're talking, okay, two big, strong guys, opposite ends of the spectrum as far as styles go. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe Jerry might be more interested in that match than a match with Chance Shaw. I don't know. You know Jerry more than I do, but I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate. I think that match makes more sense. You know, who knows?
I think Jerry is going to wait for a match that pays him a lot of money to do it. I mean, he's won WAF. He didn't really win WAL, but in the eyes of a lot of people, he was the people's champion based on how that match ended, myself included. And no offense to Mike or anything like that. That's just my opinion on it. So I think in order for him to accept any match, it's going to have to involve a lot of dollar signs, and maybe that's where Paul Italia comes in.
Yeah,
because I do think Jerry is not afraid to pull anybody, and if he's offered a match that makes sense to him financially, he'll do it.
Well, I mean, it's just like in sports now, UFC or boxing. Hey, if it makes sense financially, we'll go ahead and do it. I guess you could say he's at a level where he's a prize fighter. I hate to use that term, but he's a prize fighter. Let's be real. You know, he's earned that moniker.
Yeah,
so
he has earned it. And he's one of the. Dave Chafee is one of them. Travis Bajan is one of them. Jerry Cadorette is one of them who's gone overseas and won WAF.
Yeah.
All the other big names, Devin included, did not win WAF. John Brzezek won it. So it's like when someone can go over there and pull the very best Europeans and people from around the world in a tournament format and come out with a gold medal, they've got a permanent badge of honor in the senior class is what I'm referring to. They have a permanent badge of honor in my mind.
There you go. Well, Josh, we've been on here. I had to get that last question with Jerry because I know you're good friends with him, so I had to throw it out there. But 1 hour, 16 minutes, my friend. Awesome, man.
It went by fast.
It did, man. Want to thank you again for joining me on the show, and we got to do this again soon.
We do, man. It was a pleasure. Good luck to you, and thanks for taking the time to talk to me, my friend.
Yes, sir. We'll keep in touch, buddy. We'll keep in touch.
All right, my friend.
All right, take care.
Yep.
Bye. Josh Grant, freshly, two-time now, Woth World Champion, left and right. Okay, and I'm telling you right now, anybody who wants to crack on the Masters class, you come see us because, hey, we're just as important as any other senior open puller out there. There are some studs out there who've won titles on the national level and world level in the Masters. You talk Jim Fitzsimmons, Cody Merritt, Ryan Espy, Josh Grant, Bob Brown. The list goes on and on. So don't ever sleep on the Masters, okay? So let's say that. Okay, we have another question here. Do you think Todd Hutchins is top 5 in North America? I have a hard time believing a 220-pound guy is in his 50s is still top 5 open weight. And I think, and I'm going to answer that question because if you read or listen to one of Neil Pickup's show, he had Todd Zilla on there. I can't remember what episode it was or what part it was. But Todd Zilla explained in WAL, Steve Kaplan said, hey, man, you're just dominating your weight class. Bump up, And I think Todd, he was like, hey, I don't have to worry about cutting weight anymore. I can eat what I want, when I want, drink all the beer I want, whatever. And it's a new challenge for him to pull the supers. So when you saw, him pull Matt Mask and Jerry Cadorette and Barbosa and Ron Bath, for him, it was a challenge, Do I still think he's more dominant? I think he is at 220. He's just as dominant as anybody. But I think the challenge for him is to go after the big dogs. Now, if he were to come back down here, then it's like, fuck, for all the guys who are 220, like, shit, really? We got to deal with this again? I thought we were done dealing with Todd Zilla. But, I will say this, though. It's going to tell a tale when Todd and Lachlan finally meet up. And I think Neil has them on the show. Is it today? Is it on right now? I don't know, or maybe tonight. I don't know. I just know that Neil Pickup, his next show, is going to have Toddzilla and Lachlan Adair on at the same time, just as he had RVJ and Ryan Bowen on. So that's a back-to-back heavy hitter. That's something I want everybody to watch. But yeah, I think 220, yeah, I think so. Because if you go 220, well, who's in that 220 class? You know, Paul Lynn's in that class, you know. El Cesar's in that class. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, that'll be, you know, and maybe Brandon El Cesar's chewing off more than he can chew. Wait, chewing off more than he can chew. I'm sorry. Biting off more than he can chew with Travis because two different weight categories, you know. But Brendan might say, fuck, I'm going to get as big as I can to be ready for Travis. I don't know. But my biggest argument, I was talking with Josh, as you guys heard, hey, man, why is Jerry not getting the love? Because, hey, we've seen Corey pull West, right? Pull Toddzilla. Derek Smith's pulling Tim Bresnan. These guys are getting matches. Bajan is pulling El Cesar. Everyone's getting matches. We know about the other guys. We know about Michael Todd against Gennady, Gennady coming up. We know about Devin on his way to pull Levon and John Brzezinski and his stuff, you know? So it's like, why is Jerry not getting any matches? Yes, I know from a financial standpoint, it has to make sense. I get that. But there's the old saying goes, either shit or get off the pot. And that's what the Jerry Chance Shaw thing's all about. Like, it ain't going to happen. Fuck it. Move forward. Both of them need to move forward. If it's not going to happen, go forward. That's why I said, how weird can I be? Hey, maybe Corey West and Jerry Cadorette. That might be intriguing. You never know. We all know styles make matches. Now, don't take that Corey West loss to Toddzilla like, oh, he's not strong enough. That's a whole different ball game. Now he's pulling somebody with a different kind of style. That's a little different. Who knows? Because when Jerry's like this, you see what happened? You see where my shoulder is? You see that big-ass shoulder that Jerry has? When he comes down like that, that's a very intimidating thing, especially when he's coming at you, right? He's coming at you. That's very intimidating. You know? Maybe Corey might just catch him in here and go this way. Corey's going this way. You know, Jerry's coming that way. Jerry can hook too. It's just a lot of people want to take his hand. So we'll see. I don't know. I might be crazy for thinking that, but, you know, I'm a crazy person. Who knows, you know? Anyway, y'all, 1 hour, 21 minutes. It's a Thursday, Thumbpad Thursday. Thank you for joining me on the show. I'm going to be looking for my next guest. And, man, it's going to be a humdinger. But, again, I want everybody to stay safe out there. Train hard because we're going to end this year on a good note. And 2022 is going to be an awesome year, as Rush Trader already said, right? So, again, y'all, thanks for joining me on the show. I'll see you next time, as always. See ya when I see ya. Y'all be good to one another.